Let me tell you a little bit about me. I don't even know if you understand why you're here, which is kind of weirding me out a little bit. Talking to Scott, he had mentioned Sally and Dax. I love Sally and Dax. They're a big part of our church. I pastor a church called Pathways Church in Sevierville, Tennessee. My mother and my father and my wife and I, 22 years ago, last month, August of 1995, we moved from the beaches of Florida, exactly the beach pretty much where Hurricane Irma will be hitting, so we made the right choice to move away from that. We moved from the beaches of Florida to the hills of Tennessee. We did it for one reason, and that was to plant a church. We felt like God called us to do it. It's a stupid idea, isn't it? I mean, hindsight's 20/20. I grew up Wesleyan Methodist. So y'all have a lot of Wesleyan churches around here, right? Y'all know. You know what Wesleyans are? I don't really know what Wesleyans are, right? They just believe the teaching of John Wesley. They're a branch of the Methodist Church. Pretty much, you can lose your salvation if you do anything wrong at all. You know what who grew up in that? Anybody? Anybody grow up Baptist? Raise your hands. You Baptist in the room? Okay. Any charismatics? Pentecostals? I noticed that because the drums weren't going on Sunday night. And the drummer didn't even bring his sticks. Seriously? I mean, that's crazy. Grew up Presbyterian. Okay, you guys, to the Presbyterians, the drinkers among us, you back the keg up. To the Lutherans, United Methodist. Oh, I have a lot of relatives United Methodist. I grew up Methodist. My father, I guess I have to back up and tell you my story because I think you need to hear it, especially with what you guys are experiencing in this church, because hopefully it's going to give you some inspiration. I grew up a preacher's kid. Both my grandfathers were pastors for over 50 years. I have 19 pastors on both sides of my family. I have 6 first cousins that are in full-time ministry today. I grew up hating church people. I didn't like church people. I liked going to church. It was cool. It was fun. Good times. We had a great youth pastor when I grew up. But I saw church people treated my parents. Both my mom and dad have been in ministry. Were in ministry for 50 years. My dad has since passed away. So here's what I'll say about me. At 15 years old, I accepted Jesus Christ. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. Before 15 years old, I was not. I played a game. I grew up religious. I had all the head knowledge, but I never surrendered my life. So at 15 years old, I remember the night I stepped forward at my dad's church. He wasn't preaching. Somebody else was preaching. I came to the altar. I felt every eye on me, and I kneeled down, and I said, God, you know what? I'm sick of what other people think about me. I'm tired of being afraid of the dark. I'm tired of the unknown. I'm ready to give my life to Christ, and I accepted Jesus Christ. I went to a Christian high school in Florida because you don't go to public high school in Florida. Not back in the 80s. You didn't. If you wanted to spell. Anyway, went to a Christian high school. It was a private high school. What that meant was they did a little bit of Bible, but all the kids partied a lot richer than anybody else because mom and daddy had money. And so they all had the head knowledge and they played the game. I was like one of 4 kids at a Christian high school that was a Christian. And I'll just say that I kind of walked the straight and narrow. I played sports. It was my life. I'm a kid that I've had sex with one woman my entire life, and that is my wife of 27 years. I did not have sex with her before I got married. How weird is that? You know what? I was a preacher's kid, and it wasn't my doing. She didn't want to have sex with me because there were some nights, if she would have let me, I probably would have. But that's a whole, some of y'all might not need to hear that. I have never been drunk in my life. You're like, why would you even say that? I don't even get it. Beer looks like something else that I wouldn't really want to drink, and I don't understand it at all. And you're like, Brent, you've never been drunk. That's why you don't understand it. But all I'll say is this. I was a sinner. My testimony is boring. I have a lot of pastors on both sides of my family. At 15 years old, I just fell to my knees and accepted Christ. At 17 years old, my dad asked me, he was a pastor, great guy, my hero. He was preaching at a youth conference one day, and he said, Brent, why don't you go and share with these teenagers? You're 17, you're getting ready to graduate high school. Maybe you can impart a little bit of wisdom And I kind of knew what he was doing. He was pretty smart. He was like, Brent, maybe you need to see what God wants you to do. And I'm like, Dad, I'm not going to be no preacher, bro. I promise you that. I'm not wearing the suit. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't like church people. I don't like them. I'll do anything but that. I would rather be a good insurance salesman because I think I can win more people to Jesus than I can coddling a bunch of church people, religious people, just transmitting a bunch of religiously transmitted diseases to each other. So my dad handed me the microphone at this youth camp. And he said, Brent, why don't you share? And I said, okay, I'll talk for 5 minutes. 45 minutes later, I'm still talking. I don't even remember what I said. I remember being so scared that I gave my dad the mic. I ran out the back door. He kept preaching. I didn't listen. I ran to the car. He had a Lincoln Town Car. You remember the Lincoln Town Cars in the 80s? Literally, it was like a Sherman tank. Remember that? I jumped in that car. I was shaking, and I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt. It's a very strange thing to tell you this, but I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that God called me in the ministry right then and right there. And I'm like, God, I ain't going to do that. He goes, yes, you are, or you'll regret it your entire life. And I said, okay, I'll do it, but I'm going to give you some conditions. So I'm serious. I gave God conditions. I said, I'm not going to wear a suit, and I'm not going to play church games. Just not going to do it. I'm not built that way. I can't deal with that. I went to Bible college. I was the rebel. All the little Bible college boys, you know, they had their little briefcases and they looked like little Bible college preachers. And I wore the sweatpants and had the backpack and I was the rebel. I've never been drunk. I didn't do anything. It's not like I'm smoking pot. I'm not doing anything. I'm just being myself, right? And I'm going to these classes and I hear these guys talking and I'm thinking, man, you're gonna suck as a preacher, aren't you? You're gonna be awful. That's what I thought to myself. And so I had a lot of rebelliousness in me when it came to formal church. I said, God, I'll be a pastor, but I really got to be myself. I want to be a part of a church that is not going to coddle to religious people. I want to be a part of a church that's just going to preach and teach Jesus Christ. That's it. That was 1987, 80s. Yes, let's clap for the 80s because that was the best era ever. I mean, we know that, right? 1987, hard to believe, you know, hindsight being 2020, I would love to say God's like, Brent, man, you're just going to be awesome. You're going to start a church when you're 20. It's going to have 12,000 people. By the time you're 21, it's going to be amazing. You're going to write 16 books. And, my story is not that way. I grew up, went to the Bible college, came back to my dad's church. I was the youth pastor for a while. I grew a youth ministry from kind of really nothing to a lot of kids. We had a lot of inner city kids coming. But yet we were a part of a denomination that seemed to hamstring us. They put us in handcuffs, and they were always, it was always political. And so in 1995, my wife and I was 25 years old, and my mom and dad decided to leave Florida and move to the hills of Tennessee. Now, you got to understand, I grew up in North Carolina. My mom and dad, they were educators in Richfield, North Carolina. I was born in Salisbury, North Carolina. My mom and dad's first pastorate was in Greensboro, North Carolina. My grandparents are buried in Asheboro. They lived there their entire lives. My aunt, who's worked in the banking industry forever, is from Charlotte. I really grew up in Albemarle. Everybody knows Albemarle, right? Me and Kelly Pickler. That's what I say in East Tennessee. They all get it. So this is I grew up at 9 years old. My parents took me out of North Carolina, which was, I'm a Tar Heel born, Tar Heel bred. One day I'll be Tar Heel dead, to Florida. But in 1995, we moved back to the hills of Tennessee because we vacationed in this really cool place. And we went and we started to pray. Hey, God, man, this is an up-and-coming town. There's a lot of halfbacks. There's a lot of people that moved from Michigan down to Florida. And they didn't like Florida, so they moved halfway back up to Tennessee. They moved to East Tennessee. And so we planted a church. July the 14th, 1996, we planted a church, Pathways Community Church. I still have the bulletin that my dad and I sat in First Baptist Church, not listening to the preacher's sermon, but we were passing ideas back as to what the church name would be. And my dad wrote down, what do you think of Pathways Community Church? And I gave it a thumbs up, and that's what we started with, Pathways Community Church. Hindsight, that's a stupid name. Pathways, how many ways are there to God? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a dumb name. We were just thinking of hiking and trails and, all of that good stuff in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. But we started Pathways Community Church in 1996, July the 14th, with nothing and nobody. Zero finances. We had nothing. My dad had this idea, let's rent the Seventh-day Adventist church building down the street because they have church on Saturday. Maybe they'll let us have it on Sunday. And I thought that was the dumbest idea ever. I'm like, Dad, we're going to be a cult right away. They're not even going to know what kind of church we are. We're Pathways Church at the Seventh-day Adventist building on a Sunday. Who's going to that? Not me, right? We started with a few people. 30 people turned into 60 people. 60 turned into 90. And that's as much as that building could seat. It was really smaller than this building. So my dad and I were eating. We were eating our BLTs at a place that's now closed called Papa Kent's Restaurant in Sevierville, right across from the old movie cinema that is now the Sevierville Civic Center. It's a building that seats about 285 people. And we walked over there and said, wonder if we could rent that building for church. We walked in there in October of 1998. We were the first tenants, and this is how God works. This is my story. We did church in that building from October 1998 to May 2008. For 500 weeks, we set up and we tore down every piece of equipment. We did church for 10 years. Rain, snow, whatever it was, 500 weeks. We did Frontier Church for 10 years. In 2003, my dad got Parkinson's disease. He was 62 years old at the time. Dad, I went to him and I said, Dad, listen, we were running about 160 people. He still wore the suit. We were trying to match up with First Baptist and play the church game. And I said, Dad, I've helped you plant this church, but now I'm 32 years old. I think it's time for Javon and I, that's my wife, to go out and to fulfill my calling, to start a church that's maybe a little different. And I don't know what's going on, Dad. I don't know where you are and what's happening, but I just want to let you know. And it was how about having this conversation with your dad? It's either, Dad, you and I switch, or I got to move on. And my dad, how cool is this? He goes, at 62, he's still in his prime, but he's got Parkinson's. There's some issues going on with his health. He's like, Brent, I've been thinking about it and praying about it. I want you to take the leadership of the church, and I'll sit in the seat, and I'll do the pastoral care. You will be the visionary. You will be the leader. I will champion you. So I remember I got my jeans on, I'm pretty dressed up really this week. I got my jeans on. I got out there. I tried to be smart. I did me. And I'm thinking, man, people are going to love me. We got the old man up here. People are going to love the old 32-something. And I always said this. I still teach all of our membership classes at our church. And I said this, from my incredible leadership ability, I took our church from 165 all the way down to 110 people in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. They hated me. They're like, I don't get you. What are you doing? What's your problem? And so here's what I'll say to you, and this is what I think some of you need to hear. And I don't even kind of know why I'm here. I'll tell you that in a minute. For 4 years, from 2003 to 2007, I wanted to quit pastoring every day. Nobody got me. I thought I did okay. Thought I was preaching okay. We were at a place where we had to set up and tear down. It would be this. We would have one church on Sunday morning. I would pull up the trailer. I would unload the trailer on the loading dock. We would have a few guys show up. We would put all the sound equipment. We'd had to put lights up. We had to put all the kids' stuff up and everywhere. I would set that up. I would play the drums. I was the drum playing preacher. How weird is that for a couple of years? I would play the drums. We would go through praise and worship. I would preach the message. I would go in the back door. I would hug and love everybody. I would talk to everybody. I would come back. We would tear everything down. I would put it in the trailer, and we did it all again for 500 weeks. And nobody got what I did. My wife will tell you, every Monday I wrote my mental letter of resignation. I'm quitting. And my wife would say, have you prayed about it? Shut up. What do you say? The only thing I'll tell you, and I think I really do, talking to some of your great leaders and some men and women that have this church at heart and this community at heart, and I love this part of the country. The only thing I'll tell you need to hear is this. The only credit I'm going to give myself in that 4-year period of time is God simply said, wait. Don't quit. I promise you, a faith that's not tested will not be trusted. And Brent, I promise you, I'm testing you. I'm going to trust you with something that right now you cannot handle. In 2008, our church, it's a miracle. I don't have a story to tell you. Our church, with just a few people, we bought a $500,000 piece of property. Why did we do that? I have no idea. It was on a brand new road called Veterans that wasn't even built yet. We had problems with the property. There was a little blue water line in there. That meant there was, the EPA was going to get on us, and we would have to build all kinds of retention walls and everything to build a building, and people were freaking out because we couldn't do it. So I called the church to prayer, and then I spent 2 years selling them that we should buy this piece of property on this building, and then I had to step back up in front of the church and say, that's a bad idea. Let's sell it. Because we couldn't build. We couldn't afford to do it. Long story short, our church put $130,000 of real money into a $500,000 property. We ended up selling this piece of property on Veterans Boulevard because it had 900 feet of road frontage, because there was some massive subdivision that was going to be built behind us, and this little 4 acres that we had was going to be the entryway into this massive subdivision. We sold that piece of property for $1.3 million. So think about this. We put $130,000 of real money, and God blessed us by giving us $1.3 million on an idea that never came about. They never built the subdivision, and to this day, that property is still sitting for sale. Figure that one out. We bought a 4-acre parking lot in the back of an industrial park. I thought that was a great idea. A lot of our church didn't, because we could get it cheap, and we had money to build a building. So in May of 2008, we walked into our first metal building in back of an industrial park in Sevierville, Tennessee, across from the Sevier County High School. And every preacher looked at me and said, "You're the dumbest person I think I have ever met. Who is going to go to a church where you're not even on a road? They have to look for the building to find you." We started with 185 people, May the 11th, 2008. The next 4 months, we grew to 400 people. A year later, we had 700 people. We started to add services. Now we run 2,500 people a week at 2 campuses. And if everybody's in the building that we know of that go to our church, that are literally sitting in the seats of our church in a 6-week period of time, we have almost 6,000 people that attend our church. Last year, we did a unified service, or 2 years ago, we did a unified service at Easter where we had 5,000 people show up. There's a church in our town that's older than the town. First Baptist Church Sevierville is older than the town, 215 years old. It's always been the largest church in Sevierville for 200 years, and in a span of 10 years, we now run 800 more people a week than they do. A little non-denominational church in a metal building in the back of an industrial park. And our building, until we just expanded it, only sat 500 people. Can you explain that to me? I can't. It's a God thing. I know all I say is this: nobody outworks us. We have a lot of services. But here's the difference. Jesus Christ is not boring. We preach and teach Jesus Christ. We're a frontline evangelistic church. We are about the new person. We're about the person that is not coming to church that does not know Jesus first. And my mantra to our church is this: if we don't do it, who's going to do it? We're more excited about the Mexican restaurant that opens up today than we are about a church. Church has become wallpaper. There's a church on every corner. And so for us, we just started a journey, the little church that should not be. Everything we've done is a fight. We tried something, we did something weird. You think about weird out of the box. We started a Wednesday night service identical to the weekends. Talking about work. After Sunday, Wednesday is on you quick. But we live in a tourist community, so we're like, hey, why not Wednesday was our mantra. We put it on a T-shirt. I think our church, we're a T-shirt church. We've had 120-some T-shirts in 10 years, literally. I did a message one time where our whole building, I called it, y'all been to Carolina, right? The Ding Dome, the jerseys in the rafter. I did a message called the jerseys in the rafter, and I put all of our T-shirts. And I said, these shirts are talking to us. These are the shirts that we have worn by faith when we saw God do things that we could not explain. So we started with, why not Wednesday? Hey, well, let's have a Wednesday night service identical to the weekend. So you know what? If your kid plays travel ball, and I see there's like a lot of kids playing travel ball right down there. If your kid plays travel ball, we're going to have you an identical service of excellence on Wednesday night. And then we're going to have a Saturday night service. Why? Because you can have a guilt-free Sunday. Then we're going to give you, for a while it was crazy. We did a 9 o'clock service, a 10:30 service, and a noon service. I mean, our parking lot is so small. We're like, we love you. Hug about 3 people. Please get to your car quickly. We need your parking spot. And then we've expanded. We expanded our Sevierville campus. It now seats 700 people. We've gone to 2 services, 9:30 and 11:15, to make sure to do that. And then 5 years ago, in a couple of months, we opened up our South Knoxville campus. It was a building that we fought for. It was a strip shopping plaza in South Knoxville that Walmart actually left. Who would ever put a church where Walmart leaves? I mean, when Walmart leaves, you know God is leaving too, right? We started with nothing. We rented a 25,000 square foot space that's going to cost us $10,000 a month, and we had nobody to go there. I asked 200 of our church people, would you make this church home for at least 6 months to get it going? 100 of them have stuck it out, and now we run 500 people a week at our South Knoxville campus. People are getting saved, and I am there like twice a year. I'm never there right now. Not with my schedule. It's crazy. But yet I go to West Town Mall, which is 50 miles away from our Sevierville campus, and I walk into the buckle store because I happen to like buckled jeans. You're like, they're expensive, but man, they feel so good. A couple weeks ago, I walk in, and she's like, oh, you wear Big Star, don't you, preacher? I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, I go to your South Knoxville campus. I got saved about a month ago. I love it. It's awesome. I'm thinking, man, God, how did we ever get from me wanting to quit and having nobody to where we are today? A faith that's not tested won't be trusted. So I'm here today to say this. Scott, through Dax and Sally, gave me a call. I didn't want to take the call. To be honest, I have too much going on. I'm pretty busy. My wife says I preach too much. But I like Dax, and I don't want to make Sally mad. So I told Frank, my business manager, give it up for Frank, everybody in the back row. This is how weird of a church we are. Frank took over our finances at our church when he was 27 years old. Tell me one church in America that their financial guy was 27 when he started. Now he's old and 40. But anyway, that's, whatever. I told Frank, I said, give this Scott guy a call. I don't really have time for that. I got too much to do. And Frank came back and he goes, Brent, man, you need to take this call. This guy, he seems legit. He's not like some weirdo granola fruit flaker nut, He's like, he seems pretty legit. And yeah, that's what I was thinking. So honestly, I don't think I made the call right away. Sally came up and approached me and said, hey, Brent, did you talk to Scott? And I'm like, Frank did. And I could see this look in her eye like, gee, thanks for the old college try. So I gave Scott a call and I talked to him. And he's like, Brent, we don't know what to do. We have a body of believers, you guys. We have a church building. We have an incredible community. But we don't really know the direction to go. I've been to your South Knoxville campus. It's amazing, and that's awesome. It blows my mind to even hear that. It still weirds me out. People come up to me all the time. We had a Family Fest thing a couple weeks ago in Knoxville, and people come up to me, hey, Pastor, what's going on? I go to your South Knoxville campus, and they're looking at me up and down. They're like, man, you seem a lot thinner on the screen. And I'm like, well, thanks. And so he's come to our South Knoxville campus, and he says, maybe something like that would work. What do you think? What should we do? And I'm like, bro, I don't know what to tell you. All I know is this. Churches in America today are dying. People have the denominational hat on and they're playing church. All the while people are dying and going to hell. We're getting our rear ends beat because we're not willing to be a frontline evangelistic church. And I took the call because, you know what? Greensboro to me is a special place. My dad just passed away last year. My mother, I was talking to her about it. She had tears in her eyes because her first pastorate was right here. We grew up right here, and I could sense in her eyes. She's like, Brent, man, you know what? If you can go down there and just spread some love and some vision to people, to get ignited, to be on fire, to figure out the why we do what we do. Can you go do that for your dad? How about that? How convicting that was right there. So I said, Scott, we'll come. We tried to figure out this date to come. And I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if we're a part of that future. I don't know how anything like that works. I mean, I'm still blown away that 26 miles down the street from our main campus, we have a South Knoxville campus that 500 people show up on a week-to-week basis to watch me on a big screen. But all I know is, you know what? When I stand before God and you stand before God, nobody's ever going to say, did you know Brent? He's going to ask, did you know Jesus? And so what I say is this: the reason our church is in existence today is because we've discovered the reason why we exist. We're a frontline evangelistic church first. We're a real-life conversation church. People will say we're old-school holiness. I mean, I really grew up in the holiness movement. I am not going to water it down. I don't like to go some prosperity gospel. I hate watching Christian television because I don't even know what they're saying. All I hear is, man, be the best you can be, and you're going to be in a new season of favor. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. All I know is this: the world does not need another morality lesson. They need Jesus Christ in their lives. People in this community that we love, they're dying, and they're lost, and they're hopeless. And I promise you, their soul is not healthy. And they're like, you know what, I'm missing something. What is it? And we try to get it in the latest iPhone. We try to get us in the, you know what, it's a hole in their life that will only be filled with Jesus Christ. So we as a church have just made it a point that we're always going to make more room at the table. I wish I had a table. Make more room at the table for more people to come to hear about Jesus. When I do our membership classes, which is not membership in what you would say, my membership class is this: if you want to plug into our church and be a member of our church, that means, you know what, you're going to be one rung down from the new person walking in the door, because we're about that visitor that's walking in our church with their eyes this big, like, what did I just walk into? And you know what? If you're a member and you're sitting right here on this row and you're at the 11:15 service, which is super crowded, and somebody walks in and you turn around and you say, you can always tell when somebody's a visitor. You know what I say as a member? Y'all need to get up. Give your seats. You figure it out. And you're like, but in East Tennessee, that's not what church membership is. Church membership is preferred parking. Right? My granddaddy gave that pew. And I'm like, no. Here's what I do. Ready? I'm the pastor of the church. I park as far away in our auxiliary parking lot as I possibly can. I walk up that hill every single week proudly. Any church around here, if you drive in a church and the pastor has got his name on the front row parking spot, you need to run as far from that church as possible, because that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. So here's what I tell, right? Church membership is this: we look at the tire kicker, then we look at the member, then we look at the staff and the elders, and then I'm all the way down at the bottom. You are not here for me, I'm here for you. And I'm here to preach Jesus, and I'm here to say, I'm not perfect. I'm going to tell you my struggles. You overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. And I'm a fellow struggler, but I am a follower of Jesus Christ. You know what? I'm a Christian. We're all Christians in America, it seems. But you know what? I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. How about you? And if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, can somebody see a difference in you? Because if nobody can see a difference in you, then there's a problem. The Bible says you know you're a Christian by the fruit that you bear. And I've just told our church this 1,000 times. I'll stand on the platform and I'll thunder away. I'll preach. I'll do whatever I can. I have the attention span of a gnat. People like me. I'll try to do anything to keep your attention. But I promise you this: you will make 50 times the impact that I will ever make as a preacher if you get out the door, get in your car, go to your work, and live your life for Jesus Christ. And you go to a church that you know why you exist, and that is to be in a frontline evangelistic church. To know that, hey, you know what, we're about preaching Jesus Christ. We want to give you the opportunity to come to know Jesus Christ. So our church members, man, it's amazing to see them. They crack me up because I tell them, I'm like, I go into this, hey, we're a church, and I go through the vision points of our church. We're a church that we're going to break down the doors of traditional churches we know it. And we're not going to play church games. We're going to do anything short of sin to bring the message. We've done crazy things, people. I'm telling you, you think I'm crazy? We did things, my dad's just shaking his head like, it's what people got saved, but I don't see how. We did a series, and I remember the band came out. Our band is smoking. They came out, and they did AC/DC Highway to Hell, and they blew it up, man. And people were like, what is going on? We had flames firing up. I rolled out a casket, and I put my Bible on the casket, and it was my pulpit for the week. And you could hear people in the second row, this is too much. Man, we preached and we thundered away, and we're like, you know what? You know how many people are on that highway to hell? And I'll never forget, in that series, we in one weekend, we baptized. Check this out. In one little baptistry in the corner right here, we don't have the baptistry up behind the choir loft as God intended it, right? We have it right over, we have it over here, the little adventure baptistry. We baptized, Frank, right, Mike? We baptized 152 people in one service. Check this out, though. With no filter in the baptistry. The last 50 people, that water was black. And I baptized them all. It took us forever. And they would come out and they're like, my eyes! And I just say, that's the Holy Spirit. Don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? It's actually all that gel from people's hair. And I say that to say, you know what? It's unexplainable. But when you know why you do what you do and why you exist, and I think some of you maybe saw the message I preached a few weeks ago, and I came back and I kind of thundered away on, I wish the church would be Apple and not Android. Because Android is what? Android's made up of like 500 companies. You don't like Samsung because why? They blow up. You go to Nokia or you go to LG. But Apple is one brand and one operating system. They know why they exist. I preached it a long time ago. Remember Dell? Dell used to make everything Apple made. They made PDAs and they did TVs. But the problem with PC people is they have no creativity and they don't understand the why. They just get the what. Hey, here's what we have to offer you. We have you a television. That's great. We have you a PDA. This is what we sell. Nobody cares about the what. They care about the why. Apple goes, do you want to be a part of the status quo? I don't think so. Do you want to be on the leading edge of technology? Do you want to look sleek and be the envy of all your friends? You know what? We sell products, but this is why we sell what we sell. I don't know about you, but I have an iPhone, an Apple Watch, an iPad, and an iMac. I notice you guys are a Christian church because you have an iMac back there too. People get the why. Here's the question. Here's the problem. Today, too many churches go, this is what we have to offer you. We have all of these ministries. We have the barbecue ministry and the senior adult ministry and the horseshoe ministry, and we have the pinochle ministry. And for those of you adventurous, we have the blackjack ministry. And you know what I'm saying. But today, people are not asking, what church do I go to? Today, people are asking, why do I have to go to church? So, for us, we understand the why. We're a frontline evangelistic church. Our job is not to point people to what we are against. We're not a picket church. Some of you might disagree with what I have to say. That's okay. I'll be gone here in just a little while. We're all good. I have no dog in the fight, but you need to hear me because it's really true. You know what I tell our membership all the time? If you're going to join our church, this is what I expect. We're not a church that's going to point to people what we're against. Our church will never have abortion crosses in the front of the building, so a lady that had an abortion will drive by and feel so guilty that a church reminded her of a most horrible regret in her life. We're going to point people to what we're for, and that's for the cross of Jesus Christ. The last time I checked, we're all sinners by God's grace and mercy, and there's room at the cross for everybody who wants to be saved. And you can see people like, well, I don't know if I agree with that. And I simply say, you know what? There are other churches. They're not doing very much. You can go be a part of your Christian country club and transmit all your little Christian diseases to each other. your religious diseases, or you can follow Jesus Christ. You can be a part of a church that say, hey, listen, you know what, when I bring somebody in here, this is one thing that you're going to get. You're going to hear the message of Jesus Christ, and I'm going to love on you. I'm going to touch, and I'm going to love. I still stand at the door. I still hug. I have all these services, and people are like, why do you stand at the door? People don't stand at the door anymore because there are a couple of old ladies. That sounds a little weird. I have to say this, carefully. There's a couple of old ladies, one in a wheelchair in particular, that I guarantee you nobody hugs her ever. And I walk out, and I'm like, oh, there's my beautiful. And I hug her and her daughter with tears in her eyes. You could see the look in that lady's eyes. That's the only hug she's got all week long. And my dad taught me that, a personal touch. If people come in here and they leave because we've loved them too much, well, then they're just weird. Let them leave. But most people come in here, it's like, you know what? Nobody even knows I exist. They don't even care why I'm even here. The message I don't quite understand. And the music's okay, but where's the drummer? Don't quit yet. As a body of believers, don't just hang on. We're not meant to survive. We're meant to thrive. And I believe this. If a few of you, if you in this room would say, you know what, we're going to be a frontline evangelistic church. There might be several around here, but we're going to be one of them, that we're going to preach Jesus Christ, and we're going to go live our lives, and we're going to bring up Jesus Christ. We're going to talk about our friends and our family that are struggling right now, that have issues right now, that don't know why things are not working out. Why do they feel like they're missing something in life? We're not just going to be nice. We're not just going to be benevolent. We're not just going to hug them on the back, but we're going to say, you know what, how's your relationship with Jesus? And you're like, what are you talking about? Hey, why don't you come to church with me? And at least you can invest your influence and invite them into a place where if they hear the gospel, their lives can be changed. Everybody makes a choice. But I promise you this, people are looking for the answer. And I believe this to be true, that Jesus is the answer. He is the way, He is the life, and the truth. I'm a 47-year-old guy that doesn't have all the answers. Man, I struggle. I'm in the deep end of the pool. I got a hot-looking wife, married 27 years. She looks at me as like, hey, Brent, man, you're guiding our family. And I'm thinking, holy crap, I guess so, but I'll figure it out. I got a 22-year-old daughter that's got some foot issues, that still struggles with self-esteem. I pray every day that God would heal her. I got a 14-year-old son that I'm just praying that he will be a normal citizen and I have done my job. So I don't have all the answers, but I do know this. I'll go back to the old gambling thing. All my chips are in on Jesus Christ is the answer. And if it all falls apart for me tomorrow in Sevierville, Tennessee, and if people turn against and say, we don't want to be a part of that church, we don't always want to be making more room at the table for people to hear Jesus Christ, we want to get comfortable and turn to us for and no more. I tell our church this, and I told them a few weeks ago, you got it, I'm gone. Good luck. I'll figure it out. I can sell insurance. I could probably sell the crap out of some insurance. I could be good at that. And I might win more people to Jesus that way. The greatest thing I can say about our church is I believe that over the last 6 or 7 years, I don't know exactly how long, there's not been one week that has gone by that somebody has not found Jesus Christ as a direct result of Pathways Church. Not 1 week. My mother is the greatest pastor in our church. I'm not. She wins more people to Christ than I ever will. If you get in her office, if you have a marriage problem, she's 75. She's like the Yoda of wisdom. I mean, you get in there and she's going to talk to you about your marriage. It won't be about marriage. It'll be about, do you know Jesus? And she'll bound down the hall and she'll say, Brent, man, I just won 2 more people to the Lord today. And the other day I told our church, I gave her a high five. And I'm like, Mom, that's great. Golf clap. And God checked me and He's like, Brent, man, do you realize that's everything? If we ever lose that, we lose it all. If we ever lose that, we lose it all. If we ever lose why we exist. And I just do believe what I'm hearing, and I'll just be honest with you because I'm an honest guy. You guys are searching for an identity. Your identity should be a frontline evangelistic church. You can do Bible studies up the wazoo. Do we need to do Bible studies? Absolutely. Do we need small groups? More than anything. But nothing is going to fill this church up and fill your spiritual gas tank up more than seeing somebody's life come to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. A sinner that does not deserve God's grace go from death to life. Man, I see it up close and personal. I experience it. I can't explain it. All I know is I'm a part of it, and it sure ain't me. It's a God thing. And God, sometimes He looks back at me, and He kind of just nudges me, and He's like, hey, Brent, remember when you wanted to quit, and I told you wait? Now you understand why you needed to wait. I needed to test you to see if I can trust you, because you know what? If I couldn't trust you, you'd go run down some rabbit trail and get into some weird theology. But I need to trust you that it's all about Jesus, period. Nothing more, nothing less. All I'll tell you guys is to wait. Don't quit. Some of you, I've heard it. I've heard it in your voices. It's easier to walk out the door, find somewhere else to go to church, blend into the woodwork. But if this church closes its doors because you guys are unwilling to wait and you're unwilling to say, hey, we can be a frontline evangelistic church, and if we don't do it, who's going to do it? People are counting on us. I promise you, you don't want to live with that regret. Do everything that you can. Give it everything that you got. And then where you end, I end, God begins. Our church, I'll close with this. I talk forever, but our church, I always call it the ragged edge of faith. That's where God wants us to be. Our elder team, a lot of them have been elders forever, and we used to not have 2 dimes to rub together, and we would sit around and wonder how we would pay the bills. And there were times in the Civic Center, honestly, as a young pastor, that we would have bills and we didn't have enough money coming in. How embarrassing is this, that the pastor, I would stand up behind the platform and I knew in my mind that we had some bills that had to be paid, and I would stop before the message and lay bills at the altar and say, if anybody, the offering we just took is not going to cover these bills. If anybody could come up after the service and maybe help pay these bills to keep our church going, that would. I don't know what else to say, but I need you. And then I would go on and preach the message, and secretly, I don't even remember the message half the time. I'm like, wonder if anybody's going to show up, and wonder if this church is going to be here next week. And then at the end of the service, I would go hug a few people. I would have one eye on the people and one eye at the front of the stage. And man, I'll go back with tears in my eyes. In the elder meeting, we talk about this a lot, that you would see 3 or 4 families, and typically they weren't the families that you think would pay the bills. They would go up there, and you could almost see them say, hey, this bill's $400. I can pay $200, and I'll pay the other $200. And they would write personal checks, and they would lay those $400 on that. And this happens so many times, and I'm like, how in the world, God, did we go from here to where we are? And God said, because you kept on trusting me. You kept on believing, and you kept putting Jesus first. If you've watched any of my sermons lately, some of you have, I'm in a really rough season in my life. My dad died a year ago at my house. He hit his head on the brick wall of my home. This is a made-for-TV movie. My dog Marlin of 13 years, a miniature Dachshund who loved me. I love dogs. Don't you? If you're not a dog lover, you're not a Christian, and we'll talk about that later. He loved me through those years that I wanted to quit, and he was the king of our home. That dog was everything. And we got home from vacation last year, and I don't know exactly what happened, but I think he had a heart attack, and I'm pretty sure it was my fault, because since he was 2 years old, we fed him nothing but human food. This was a dog that ate leftover Ruth's Chris steak, people. And he died. My family and I watched him have a heart attack and die on my bedroom floor. And it was 5:30 in the morning on a Sunday, and I was going to our South Knoxville campus to preach. I didn't know what to do. My kids were distraught. I'm like, let's put him in a bag and put him in the freezer, but they didn't want to do that. So I told my son-in-law at the time, new son-in-law, actually he was not even my son-in-law yet, my daughter's boyfriend and my son, go dig a shallow grave in our backyard, and we'll put him there, and when I get home from preaching at our South Knoxville campus, we'll dig Marlon's grave. This happened so quickly. I preached in South Knoxville. I cried my eyes out. Everybody cried. All the dog lovers cried together. All the cat lovers, anyway. But I went home. My mom called. My dad, it was really struggling of health. He had been diagnosed with Parkinson's. It was progressing through the years. she called me. She's like, what are you doing? And she knew that Marlon died. And I said, you don't want to know. I have a shovel in my hand. I'm in the backyard with my 13-year-old son, and we're digging the grave for my dog. And Mom's crying, Dad's crying on the phone, and she's like, we're coming over. I'm like, Mom, there's no reason to come over. Dad, he's not going to be able to come up the hill. So the next thing I know it, I'm almost done with the grave, and here comes my mom around the corner of my house. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing there? She's just crying her eyes out. Marlon's in this bag. Mason's crying. And before I got the words out of my mouth, hey, where's Dad? I see him come around the side of my house up this steep incline. He can't barely walk. And before I said, Dad, what are you? He started to stumble back. My son dropped the shovel. He's quick. He ran down the hill. He turned the corner. He tried to catch Dad. By the time I got around the corner, what I saw devastated me. My dad hit his head right here on the brick wall of my house. He stumbled 14 feet back downhill. My son said his hands weren't even up. He wasn't breathing. I flipped him over. His face was in the dirt. Blood was all over me. I shoved him in the chest. He came back to life. 10 days later, though, he died. So this season of my life, I've been asking, hey, God, what's next for me? On the beach, and some of you saw this a few weeks ago, I really came to a point in my life where I felt like my gas tank was once again empty. And God said, hey, Brent, quit feeling sorry for yourself. Recommit your life to Jesus Christ. It's all what you focus on. Maybe I'm here to say that to some of you guys because I almost hear it in your voices. Listen to me. Quit feeling sorry for yourselves as a church. Recommit your life to Jesus Christ. It's all what you focus on. If you go tomorrow and you go with a purpose and you say, God, go before me. I want to talk to somebody. I want to reach somebody. I want to bring somebody to church with me. And you guys get up here, just what you just did. And I felt the love and we felt, and you know what? If you go to, I promise you, sooner than later, the old worm will turn, right? That weight will turn into God saying, listen, I can trust you that you're not going to bail, that you're going to walk the road and you're going to toe the line. And you're going to ask yourself, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? I don't know where I come into this mix. I'm willing. I have Pastor Mike here. Give it up for Pastor Mike, everybody. I brought two of my guys. It seems a little weird. It's like he brought his posse with him, but I brought my financial guy just to kind of scope you guys out, and I brought our technology genius boy that really is the reason that our two campuses work so well together, just to see what are some possibilities. I don't mind to partner with you. I don't mind to, for us as a church, we can come in here and we can retrofit whatever we need to. It will not cost you a penny. We'll take care of all of that, and we can partner with you, and you guys can be a body and a community until you can figure out who can possibly stand here. You need a leader, and you need somebody that's going to say, we're going to preach and teach Jesus Christ. And you're not going to say, really do anything, sell short of that. You need somebody, whether we pipe pathways in and y'all listen to me preach, which I still think is as weird as can be, especially 200. I've done the work 251 miles apart. All I know is this. It's kind of weird. I love this part of the country. I was born just down the street. My mom and dad, my dad was my hero. His first pastorate was right here in this community. My grandparents are buried not very far away. I know this to be true, right? This is the God's honest, truest thing I'll ever say. Carolina barbecue is the only barbecue. Piedmont barbecue. I don't know why I'm here other than that. I almost feel like, wait, and you need to hear what God's been telling me. Quit feeling sorry for yourself. You don't need to sit around and search around for an identity. The identity is in the Gospels. The identity is Jesus Christ preached and glorified. The identity is a frontline evangelistic church. Remember this. The greatest, most excellent, exciting moment in the history of the world was the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It's just taken the church 2,000 years to make it boring. Don't make it boring. And I promise you, the Bible says it. Christ will draw all men unto him. I'm going to be praying. You guys have a leadership team that we've talked and we've kind of come up with a little idea, and I don't know if that idea will happen, but I know from my end, if that's the direction that they want to go until you figure it out, we can be in here really quickly. We as a church, I want you to pray for this, and I maybe want you to join us with this. We as a church, from October the 1st to October the 8th, we're going to have a revival. We've never had an old school revival in our church like ever. Because I think revival, the way revival used to be, remember with the tent, you do all that, it's kind of turned into something weird. I had our church a few weeks ago write down on their communication card, what does revival mean? And this one lady put, 7 boring nights in a row coming to church. And then she captioned it, but at least there's chicken, right? I mean, that's the only thing she wrote. And so we have captioned it, something that's old can be new again. And why are we doing it with our church? To get out of our comfort zone again, to give God more, and to give them an opportunity to invest their influence, invite somebody to come in and listen to the gospel, and allow them to come to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. We're going to have the baptistries up at both campuses, and we're just going to go unapologetically at it. Hey, you know what? Jesus is the answer. Above him, there is no other. He is the way. Maybe that's what you guys need. You need those moments. I'm calling our church to 10 days to prayer. This coming week, this is how I roll at our church. This is how dirty I fight. You ready? You're going to love this. You're going to like, man, I don't know if I want to go to your church. You convict me too much. I'm going to give them a sheet of paper this week, and I'm going to have them put their email address and their cell phone number down. And then I'm going to ask them, I'm not going to give them an opportunity. I'm going to which hour are you going to come pray for 24 hours of prayer? We're going to open up both of our campuses for 24 hours before the revival. Which hour are you coming to pray? And then below that, who are you inviting to the revival service? So here's how we're going to do this. Ready? They're going to give us that information. And then the day before they're supposed to pray, we're going to send out a text. Hey, you're coming tomorrow. We can't wait, Susie. We can't wait to see you tomorrow night to pray. And man, we've been praying for Sally that you've been inviting her. Hopefully you're ready to go. She's going to get that and go, oh crap, I better invite Sally. Why? Because we're getting our rear ends beat. Why? Because it's easy to get in the comfort zone. Why? It's easy to feel sorry for ourselves and look around at our world and go, we've lost. The world is going to hell in a handbasket. Let's shut the door. It's us four and no more. Let's just feel good about our little Christian country club. Man, you read the Bible, that doesn't have, it's not in there. It's not in there. So you guys, don't quit. I hope I didn't waste my time to fly all the way to Greensboro. That's how I roll, by the way. I flew down here. You're like, woo, you must be. I had a friend of mine in the green room today. We had rented a car, and I was going to drive here, but I wanted to talk to you guys. And one of my friends walked in the green room right before I preached the second service, and he's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Man, I got to drive to Greensboro. We got to get there quick. It's like 4 hours." And he's like, "Hold on, just a second. Oh, my pilot guy will pick you up right here at 2 o'clock. At the airport right behind our church." He rolled in his little twin-engine plane, got us in here. We're here in an hour. He's waiting on us, so we'll be home. How cool is that? Go, God, go. Pathways 1. Right. Get a Lear. Get a Lear. I'll get a Lear jet. I'll go back and forth from Greensboro to here, though. Wasted church resources right there. I'm going to be praying for you. I don't feel I wasted my time. I hope I didn't. I hope that this moment is a moment that we remember, you know what, we could have quit, but maybe it just took a spark to get us going. Remember that old campfire song, it only takes a spark to get a fire going? And once all those around can, whatever, see it glowing. I remember singing that as a kid, and it's like, wow, that is so true. All people today need is a spark. They need vision. People will not give. I believe this as a pastor. People in churches don't give to needs. They give to vision. They don't give to needs. They give to vision. They give to how can I be a part of lives changing. I don't have all the answers. It's messy. It's not an easy battle. Think of me, 10 years we set up and tore down, 500 weeks I've been at this a long time. Our success story is a long, slow climb up the mountain. So I'll close with one illustration that I love the most. I used it years ago. There was a preacher's wife that had this vision. She said she had a dream. Her and her husband planted a church. I look at you guys as almost like a church plant. She planted a church, and they got in their car, and they started to drive up this winding mountain road. And she said in her dream, she saw people follow them. These were the people that were helping start the church. But then after a while, she saw a car pull off the side, like the overlook at the Smoky Mountains National Park. She told her husband to stop. She walked back. She knocked on the window. They rolled their window down, and she's like, please don't stop. Please keep driving the car up the mountain. And their response was, you know what? We're tired of driving. We're just going to put the car in park. The view is perfect right here. And she kept saying, if you don't understand, keep going around the corner. Put the car in drive. I promise you the view is worth the drive. That's our church. Our church today, if you look at our church, it's financially strong. It's people strong. It's amazing. We could coast and ease and belize. I could easily just say, you know what? It's all going to be about comfort. Whoop, put the car in park. Its view is perfect. But you know what God keeps telling me? Keep the car in drive. Keep the hammer down, because there's greater views ahead. The view is worth the hike. If y'all put this church in park right now, it's going to be over. It'll be over. What if you kept it in drive and you found out that there's not a minister that's going to make the difference? There are ministers in the church that makes the difference. Quit feeling sorry for yourself. Recommit your life to Jesus Christ. It's all what you focus on. God, I come before you. I don't really know what to say in times like this, but we need you. I believe that the church is plan A. There is no plan B. I'm a fan of the local church. The local church is everything. The local church is the hope of the world. I have nothing against parachurch organizations. I have nothing against the Red Cross or the United Way or the Fellowship of Christian Athletes.